Hey, Sarah, welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's really lovely to see your beautiful face and welcome you
Mm.
as a guest today.
Thank you, love. It's nice to see your beautiful face as well.
Yes, I would love to just kind of get started and dive right in and learn about your journey and wondering if you can share with listeners about your path to spiritual awakening.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. I love talking about that. So I've been channeling and using light language or light codes as a form of healing for about, I'd say 10 or 11 years. I had a spiritual awakening about 10 or 11 years ago, but I've been doing social media and have my own business with it probably for about 4 years. Prior to that, I was doing channeling groups and doing in-person stuff. And then when COVID happened, I did everything online. But just backtracking with the light language. So about 10 or 11 years ago, channeling and light language for me was a lot less talked about
Mhm.
or known. I think within the last maybe 10 years, channeling and light language has been more prevalent. You see a lot of people now on Instagram doing light language and YouTube. But
Yeah.
at the time, I had no idea what it was. And so I wasn't really seeking channeling out per se. I was just doing a lot of soul searching,
Mhm.
like we all do. Like who am I? What's my true purpose? And I was going through a divorce and I was struggling with low self-esteem and I had a young child and I was just really trying to figure out who the heck I was. And I was doing a lot of meditation
Mhm.
and learning Reiki and those things. And all of my psychic gifts kind of just exploded. So my clairaudience, my ability to hear spirit, clairvoyantly, to see spirit, and I started doing automatic writing, and I'm an artist. So I started doing channeling people's spirit guides, and I just was having this creativity explosion when I was around 33, I would say 33, 34. And then when I had my Reiki 2 attunement, what started to happening was I started to hear like words and they would be like, and it was like a soft whisper and I was like, and then certain words would come and it was building and building and building until eventually I had no choice but to just like let that pour out of me. So I didn't know what it was. Like I wasn't like, this is light language, I would just
Yeah,
I was,
what am I saying? So do you
yeah,
know, like when you're channeling the light language, do you know the meaning behind it? Or like
yeah,
do you
that's a
receive those
great
messages or downloads? How do you interpret that?
yeah, that's a great question. And that's a question, one of the top questions. So over the years, I have FAQs, like frequently asked questions. Um, and that's a question I get a lot. So yes and no. So that depends, right? There are certain times because light language or light codes, they're all heart-based, intuitive-based, right? It's not logic-based language. There are certain times where I don't know there's not a literal translation where you would like go in a dictionary and look up a word. It's just an intuitive feeling. Like I feel, right? There are
Yeah.
certain times when I feel like I'm not supposed to tune into that.
Hmm.
If I'm channeling for someone, I'm just supposed to, I'll say to them, listen, I feel like this is a communication for you.
Hmm.
So just open up your heart to receive it. You'll get the download. You might not understand, but days later, you might just have this epiphany. So that's right. Like it's just like they're popping it in there, but it's a code. So you don't have to, right? And there are other times where I'm like, back and forth English light language, back and forth English light language, where I feel like this is what's being said. So it's, I think it's just appropriate to utilize the English when it's needed or when I feel I have to kind of, this is what I'm hearing, because I do get English in my head sometimes when I'm speaking light language. So that's my cue, speak the English because, and there's other times where it's just sound, right?
Right.
It's just like music or sound where if you listen, I always say to people, like, if you listen to Mozart, you're
Mm.
not always like, what is he trying to say? Right. You're just
Right.
feeling the music. You're feeling, oh, that makes me feel good. Right. So
Love classical music.
yeah, yeah, me too. For that purpose, right? It's No words, just feeling, just energy, right? Music does that, sound does that, and the light codes can be for that purpose. But other times it can also be communication. So I guess as the channeler,
Yeah.
it's your discernment to feel like, ooh, like keep your mouth shut. Don't just allow the energy to come out, or ooh, they need to hear this message in English. Like, it's a case by case basis and intention based too, you know, intention based. Yeah.
So going back just a little bit about your journey, would you say that a catalyst maybe for awakening was the event of like going through the divorce, or was that like your catalyst? Because I hear oftentimes from people that a traumatic event or a certain thing that happened
Yeah.
is what sparked the awakening. It seems like trauma, for whatever purpose, like cracks us wide open spiritually. It's very
Yeah, I love how you say cracks us, right? Because it's so, there's an oracle deck I have, and one of the cards is like the cracking open or something, and I have chills, and that's exactly what it is, right? Because it allows us to let go of what no longer serves us, and when we do that, we create the space for more. So yeah, so I was about 33, and I met my ex-husband when I was in college. I was 18, and I was lost and confused and looking for, like we're all searching for who we are.
yeah.
And I was married. We got married when I was 25, 26. So I was with the same person from 18 to like 32, 33. And when we separated, it was a loss of identity, and I
Mhm.
had a small child, and absolutely I was like, who am I? And since then too, like we have constant endings in our life. And with every ending, with every trauma, with every painful ending, there's always some kind of spiritual growth, always some kind of next leveling up, right? Because it never ends, right? There's always this layering of more growth, healing inside, coming out, reborn, healing inside, coming out, reborn, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, 100%. The divorce and loss of identity and self-confidence,
Mhm.
self-esteem.
What
Yeah.
was it like transitioning into more of like a spiritual path? I know that fear of judgment, being judged by people, it holds a lot of us back. I'll be honest and transparent. It held me back for so long. I was like, people are gonna think I'm
Yeah.
crazy, and so I think
Yeah.
that, I would imagine that there's people listening to this right now that might feel the same way. Like maybe they want to step into like more of a spiritual role, or come
Absolutely.
out of the spiritual closet, let's say. Like, what was your experience like with that? Did fear of judgment
Like
hold you
that,
back at
that's such a
all?
great, that's such a great question. Because I still, to be quite honest, I still deal with that.
Same.
I still do, even though I'm very, like you said, you went on Instagram, you saw my videos, and and there's a couple of points I want to make with that. So, yes, I've experienced a lot of judgment, especially when I started channeling Jesus and when I was channeling light beings. A lot of people, like when I was channeling Jesus, there was like, oh, yeah, right. And a lot of people like with the light language, crazy comments like she's a witch and you're whacked and this is psychotic, um and I think the judgment part, like it used to like, oh, like I felt like it was a knife in my heart because I'm just being so pure about it. Like this is who I am. I have no choice. Even if I tried to pursue something else, and believe me, I've tried more conventional paths,
Mm-hmm.
because the path of a channeler and a healer is not the conventional path, but it's my soul path, and I have no other choice. Because if I try to go down other pathways, it always leads back to this path.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
I think it's just who you are. There's no choice. I actually had a friend say to me the other night, "You're brave, Sarah." And I was like, but I don't even see it as bravery because it's just who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely the judgment. And what's really helped me with the judgment piece, the biggest learning curve I had, for those of you who are like really want to coming out of the spiritual closet, it's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of you. Like it has literally nothing to do with you. Anytime somebody projects their stuff onto you, like you're evil, you're this, you're that, it's them talking about themselves.
Fear. It's fear.
So it's fear. It's fear. It's just them. And this is another thing too, as a light worker, right? Your light can be a trigger for people's shadow.
Mhm.
light codes in particular are very high frequency. If I'm bringing in, let's say, I don't know, 6 dimensional frequency energy, right? And somebody has like entities or shadow, and I'm streaming in darkness, they're not in this space to see it. Oh, Sarah's showing me my darkness. They're like, she's the dark one, right? So it's just this kind of like projection, really. That's all it is. It's a projection and it has nothing to do with you. But I think the planet is shifting now, where
Mhm.
there's a lot more people speaking the truth. And I think also when you start having more confidence, you attract less of these people
Mhm.
because there's just no room for it. And when you do attract these people, ask spirit, like, what are they showing me?
Yeah.
What are they showing me that I need to heal? And I went through that phase, and occasionally it comes up still, but I just laugh now. Like I had some guy post, so he commented something like crazy, deluded white lady or some weird, and I just laughed. I was just
Yeah.
like, that's so funny to me now, you know? Um, but yeah, I hope
To
that
shrug it off,
helps.
and sometimes, it can be hard at first, but everybody's going to always judge. It's human nature. Even you could be the most perfect person in the world, like, which nobody is, of course, but people are still going to judge you and say things. And so I just kind of tell myself that, and I just get less and less concerned with it as time goes on, to your
Just don't focus on it. Like it's all about focus, right? Like focus on the people who are like, oh my God, that's amazing. Cause I have so many people. I'm like, why am I choosing to focus on the one guy?
Mhm.
When I have all these people saying all these wonderful things,
Yeah.
like it's where your focus is. And, but if also too, like if you've had a lot of past lives of like persecution and those things can come up, right? But it's just all for healing.
Yeah.
It's all, and a lot of us have, right? As light workers, we've had a lot of those lives. I'm sure you've had too.
I'm a
So
past life
it's just,
regressionist, actually. That's what I do. So yeah. Yeah, I've
so
seen
all
a
about
lot of
that,
a
right?
lot of that.
You know all about that, past lives of not only being a witch, but
Hmm.
anytime in history there was somebody who spoke um, out loud about something, they were, anytime anyone had any connection with God and they were vocal about it, right? They were met with God, horrible things, right? So,
Yeah,
but that time is over, and
it is.
you know, it's over, and there's no real threat now. It's just emotional threat, right? It's all in our mind, right? It's in your mind, right?
And one thing that
Yeah.
you said that really kind of resonated for me was how you tried to go back and do more conventional line of work, because I actually had a time when too, like I was getting a little bit of pressure to go back, and I used to be a senior executive in a bank, and I fell in love. I do healing hypnosis, and I really just fell in love, and it was my calling. And
Yes,
my higher self told me I was to be a practitioner. So I made a decision to leave the executive world and
good for you.
step into this
Yeah.
work. And there was a time when I was getting pressure to go back. And Sarah, I applied. I'm not gonna, and I have a very solid leadership background. I mean, it could lead a team of 230 people in my sleep easily. I applied for 217 jobs, and I went
Mm.
after it, sending out emails on LinkedIn, introducing myself, requesting interviews, expressing as a
Very
candidate. I really,
awesome.
not one solitary single phone call. How
Yeah.
does that happen? Like, I
Yeah.
literally, even on like my Indeed, like 217 jobs, and I went after it and nobody called me back. I said, if
I
that's
surrender.
not a sign from the universe, then I don't
I
know what
surrender,
is.
right? Yeah, that happened to me too. So I have a master's in social work, and it's funny too because my channeling gifts, my light language and my trance channeling ability actually kicked in right after I registered for my master's program and signed up and paid. So I feel like if it happened before, I might not have, but I know I was meant to do that for a reason. But
Yeah.
anyway, after when I graduated, I had all these connections. Like the girl in my internship left her job and she was like, you have my job guaranteed. It fell through. I had some other guy who was like, I could get you a job. I worked there guaranteed, fell through. There was always some, right? Like always some thing blocking me. Same thing happened to me, but it's like I guess we're blocked for a reason. It's
Right. It's like when the
yeah.
universe says no, it's a hard no.
Like
Yeah.
and even like the times where I've gotten off my path
Hmm.
and I try to push hard, like you said, like you go after something in your
Yeah.
minds because you think I'll get sick, or like there'll be something that'll happen. I'll be like, no, no. So I've just like everyone else, we have to learn the hard way sometimes, right? Like we're humans. It's just like we need those lessons sometimes. But I do feel that no matter what I do, I'll always be led back um to just this path. Even even if I resist it, right?
Yeah. I definitely agree. And yeah, I know other people who have experienced something, very similar to that. When the universe wants you to take a certain path and you know it and you feel it, but you try to resist, it just stops
Yeah.
you. I'd love to.
It's your highest
Oh,
you.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, I was saying, like you said, your higher self. Your
Mhm.
higher self is like, no, you're gonna do this.
It
And you
is.
have to listen, right? Yeah. So you're gonna say, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was gonna say I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about quantum shifting, one of my favorite topics, because it
Mm,
involves the idea of changing our reality by shifting perspectives, right?
yeah.
And can you explain maybe to listeners a little bit about your interpretation of quantum shifting and how is it related to a helpful tool that they can use to change their reality?
Yeah, I love that. I love that conversation. I love talking about the quantum, right? Like everybody's talking about quantum, quantum. It's such like a hot word now. So for me, like I obviously am an avid reader, learner. I love to learn. I
Mhm.
love to watch videos. But when I get a download, like it's mirrored to me within the information I get from the outside world. So like I'll receive it within myself from my guides or like a channeling download. And then it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I see it everywhere, right? I've read a lot of Joe Dispenza. I'm sure you know his work and talks about the quantum. Like so it came through for me in a channeling, but also in other obviously teachers. So the quantum, right, is the idea that there is only one moment, that everything is happening now, right? The understanding that there is no past, there is no future, that your future pertains to the now moment. It's how you're thinking and feeling in the present moment. Like everything is just a vortex, right? The quantum field is this vortex. And within this vortex exists like all of these potentials, right? Like all of these possibilities. My guides literally showed me it's like a swirling vortex, and each possibility, like the stars behind you, it's just a point of light. It's just the potential and it already exists. So I think as human beings, I always thought we have to create our reality. We have to make it happen. We have to, right? So there's always this idea of like working hard. Like I have to like literally go out, make this happen. But yet, whenever I tried to do that, it always felt really impossible versus the times that I just was like, I don't know. And like things just came to me. But I was always like, why is that? Like, why? So that would happen, but I consciously didn't understand like why until I really realized that my guides, the download was like, everything has already been created for you. So it's not about trying to create it because it exists. Like if you can conceive of it as a potential, it's a potential there. It already exists in the quantum field. So literally all you have to do to quantum shift, right? To shift is to embody the feelings and thoughts that match that potential, right? It sounds really easy. And then they'll be like, wait, but how do I do that? Right. You know,
Mhm.
so a good tool is just using your imagination
Yeah.
and thinking about something you want to manifest, right? So I don't know if you've heard of, I'm sure you've heard of Neville Goddard, right? He
Oh,
talks
yeah.
about going, yeah, love him, right?
Right.
He always talks about the law of assumption. So assume it's yours.
I
Yeah,
fully embrace. I don't really do the law of attraction. I do the law of assumption. I assume and I act as if,
yes, act as if it's yours, right? And that's the quantum, the now moment. So
Mhm.
It's literally mine now. And when you start to use your imagination and go to the feeling, he talks a lot about going to the feeling. When you use your imagination and you go to the feeling, like it has no choice but to show up in your reality. It's just a matter of time. Spirit gave me the analogy actually yesterday. I was doing a writing and they said, like, we doubt, but there's no reason to doubt because when you plant a seed, what do you have to do? You have to dig a hole, you plant a seed, you put dirt on top, you water it, you give it sun, and it's guaranteed to grow.
Mhm.
You don't sit there and like plant. You don't sit there and focus like, come on, plant, grow, plant, grow, plant, grow, plant, grow, plant. You don't need to do that. The universe knows you planted it. That's the seed of your desire. All you have to do is give it water, give it sunlight. So good feeling, good intention, and it's a guarantee that it will grow. So I think we just block ourselves, right?
We do, and
We
it's
just,
about intention. I mean, intention really plays such a huge process in quantum shifting. So when you
yes,
believe it,
intention.
it's going to manifest in the reality.
Yeah, and it has no choice. And something like I listen to a lot of Abraham too, and I just like it's good to listen to channeled stuff because throughout my day as a human being, we always forget. So it's good to have reminders no matter what you do, just some reminders, listening to something that just reminds you. And they said something, and I was like, wow, that's so true. If you're trying to manifest something and it feels impossible, like you want it, but you're feeling it's impossible, that's because it's not close to shifting. It's not yet in your vortex. It's very far. But when you start to work on that and it starts to, wow, actually, it has no, like, that's the next logical step. Then it's about to manifest because then you've quantum shifted and you're now in the vortex of that potential.
Yeah.
But when it feels very impossible, it's only because it's not yet close to you. That's the only reason why. So what are the thoughts and feelings that I need to shift? Right? That's it. So yeah, I need to start thinking I am that, right? I already am. And then not only think it, but actually feel it. And that can be challenging for a lot of people, right? Like, how do I feel it if I don't already have it? Because we're so used to getting it first and then feeling, if I get the money, then I'll feel happy. If I get the boyfriend, then I'll feel happy, right?
Mhm.
But you have to feel it before it.
And
Which is
something that you said is like when you say, I want this, or even like words like that, like the word want or wish, that comes from a mindset of that you don't already have it. And so
right,
that
exactly.
I'd like to kind of
Yeah.
clarify for listeners, a lot of assumption doesn't come from a place of want or wish or I'm going to, because those are all things assuming that's your conscious mind telling you that you don't have it, hasn't happened yet. So with a law of
Yeah.
assumption, you act as if it already happened, as if you already have it. I'm so happy
Yeah.
that I, do this line of
So
work.
grateful that I have this. I'm so, yeah. Yeah. I think you brought up a great point too with the word want.
Mhm.
So for a while, like it always kind of stumped me. Like, how do I talk about my manifestations? Because there's the word need too. Like, I need this, I need money, I want money. So I asked Spirit to kind of show me the difference between, is there a difference between want or need? And I kind of felt like there is. I feel like need comes from lack.
Right.
Like, right? Like I don't have, and I feel want is a little different. Want is like I desire, and desires are okay. It's okay to have desires, but because you don't have to justify your desires. Desires, I want something because I want it, and need is more like I need this because I don't have it. And if I don't have it, then it's a lack. So just, I know it can be confusing for people like, well, if I'm already acting, like, how do I know? Like, what if I want something? It's okay to want something,
Mhm.
just as long as you're not longing and needing,
Right.
right? Like, yeah, right. Like, it's okay to say, I want a house, I desire it, but not to focus on I need it or I don't have it. Let that desire be and then go to the assumption, then go to the end, right? Like, have the desire and then say, it already is, right? It's not staying because sometimes I think some manifestation practices like for me, I don't resonate with like the vision board necessarily, because it's like, I feel like I'm fixating on like some of these practices of like, I don't have it, I don't have it. I'm fixating on it.
Mhm.
I don't know if you resonate, if that makes sense.
Like
It's
vision
almost,
boards personally, but I try not to fixate on it. And that's actually a really good point, because when you become fixated on something, you miss out on other things that could come your way. I have it
yeah,
on, I have like a visual one, like my desktop is kind of like my vision board. And so I see it and it's there and it's
you're
constantly
not like fixating. Yeah.
around. Um,
Yeah.
but it's not something I fixate on, and we just recently had Lionsgate a few days ago, and my son and I
Yeah.
went back and we opened our manifestations, from last year that we wrote. We had like this little Lionsgate box and we
Oh,
put them in
so
there.
nice.
And
I
he
love
didn't want
that.
to show me his, which is fine. It was private for him. But everything that I wrote down, none of like it happened. I wanted to travel the world, which I did. I was in Asia for 8 weeks this year, and we went all
Oh,
over.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I wanted to transition into full-time, remote work and helping people remotely. And I launched my podcast. I do have sessions now, full time. And so everything that I had written down happened. And I was like, wow.
that's amazing. It feels so good, right? It's
Yes.
like it's real.
Yeah, it's kind of set it and forget it. Like you think about it, you plant that seed, like you said, and then
Yeah.
you go on and and you have like
Yes.
this is happening, and it will come true. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to walk away from it. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
something that I'd like to talk about that I've been encountering, again, I do quantum healing hypnosis, and so I work with people, consciousness. We're always connecting with the fifth dimension. And to your point earlier, I do also want to say, absolutely, it's my professional opinion, and everything I've uncovered as a practitioner is that everything is happening simultaneously, all at once, in the now. When I talk with people's subconscious higher self, it doesn't have a concept of time. Like if I ask it like a time-based question under hypnosis, it'll say, I don't understand, or it can't quantify time because there is no time. So absolutely, to your point earlier, everything is happening all at once in the quantum. But something that's been happening a lot for my clients is they've been getting a lot of messages, a lot of downloads. I have people coming to me saying, I'm hearing things, I'm getting symbols, and I'm seeing things, and I don't know what to do. And
Oh, wow.
what advice would you have for someone who's maybe starting to channel things and they don't know what to do with this information, or they're feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
or scared or nervous? What would you say to someone who's just beginning on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting, right?
It's happening a
That's
lot
interesting.
lately, Sarah. Like
Yeah.
almost every session I have, people are being activated, like everywhere.
Wow.
This is a very transformative time for us right now.
Wow, that's so cool to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I'm removed from that and I don't know. Because I had my awakening like 11 years ago, and I don't always know, like, are people actively waking up? But that's really interesting. So, well, you could send them my way. But yeah, but yeah, so I would say don't be afraid. Don't be scared, right? Because fear is a lower vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I noticed too that there are some comments, like if I see people giving light language activations, like people have this fear that if I don't know where it's coming from, it could be a trickster, or it could be not safe, or don't be
Yeah.
afraid of that.
Yeah,
Don't be,
I've heard that too.
yeah, don't be afraid of that, because really you can only be vulnerable to something like that if you're inviting that in. And if you don't allow it, you're a sovereign being. So nothing can manipulate you, nothing can drag you under, you just ask for more awareness. So if you're getting downloads, if you're seeing symbols, I think it's important for you to create some time for stillness,
Mm-hmm.
to open up to receive and ask. I'd like more understanding on what this means, please. I'd like more guidance on what I should do next, please. Please show me a teacher who can help me. Please give me an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Please give me the download of, should I share this information? Should this information be for me? Just open up a dialogue with the universe.
Yeah.
Ask some questions, see what comes forward. And then, like you said, step away from it. Don't have expectations. And you'll be given some more guidance. Someone will pop up, a video will pop up, or you'll see, oh my God, that's what that means. Or, oh my God, I should join this group. Or, oh my God, I should make a session with so-and-so. Or, oh my God, I should, and you'll be guided. So just trust. I think you're right. A lot of people are being activated because there's so much light that's flooding the planet now. And we're shifting now to a higher frequency, higher vibration. We're leaving third dimensional consciousness. We're going into fifth dimensional consciousness. And since you do QHHT and you probably know about Dolores Cannon, right?
Yeah, that's
The
Dolores
Dolores
Cannon
Cannon.
changed my life. Like I've
I
came
know,
across a
right?
video and it was all done after that.
Was
Everything changed.
married. She was so ahead of her time. And I've actually seen her. There's a video, I have to find it, where she talks about, I don't know when this video was, it was probably 90s, where she talks about there's going to be more and more people receiving symbols, receiving codes, receiving, and it's activations and it's knowledge, it's wisdom, encoded wisdom and knowledge in the form of codes and
Mhm.
symbols. And that's what light language is really. They're codes. So it's, if you're trying to interpret it, that's another thing with your logical mind, it's going to be more difficult. So it's about opening up the heart frequency and creating that relationship with the heart that's going to allow you to interpret it. So this is a download, and this is going to allow you to integrate it. Integration is going to be so important. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because this is good for me to understand that maybe how I can help people,
Yeah,
like,
it's coming through a lot, Sarah. Like, one thing that you said that kind of resonates for me is some of my clients, we were afraid that it was a trickster. And so they were like, how do I protect? How do I know? And so, I told them to envision yourself in the white pyramid of light because it's the strongest, most
yeah,
powerful force in the universe. What
yes,
is that what you do, or how do you protect yourself from a trickster or something
yeah.
coming through? Or would that even happen? I feel like if we're aligned with the light and we're in, a star seed, like that's not even possible, is my opinion.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody that's feeling that way?
Yeah, this is also a great conversation to have, because there are a lot of people I know who are light workers who are like, something's attaching to me, something's draining my energy. So, and I'm like, come on, like, what's going on with you? Like, why does this keep on happening? So here's something that's a good rule of thumb. This is how you know if it's a trickster.
Mm-hmm.
Divine light, like divine beings, they will never make you feel bad, and they'll never take away your free will. They'll never command you to do something. Like, even like you said, you got a nudge from your higher self to do quantum healing, hypnosis. It wasn't like your higher self like said, Jennifer, you have to do this or else this. There wasn't like an ultimatum. Like, it didn't make
Right.
you feel uncomfortable, right? It wasn't,
No, I was excited.
it's just, yeah, it's exciting. It's a
Like,
good
oh my
feeling. It's
goodness.
like, oh my God, for me, I'm transitioning more now to like doing like writing and singing and content create. And it's this exciting feeling. So I'm not getting this thing from the universe that says you have to stop doing this or else. And nothing will ever make you feel bad. So that if something's making you feel bad or giving you ultimatums, it's not from the highest. It's not from Christ consciousness. And you can say, like, listen, are you from Christ consciousness? Are you from, and they have to answer you, by the way. They
Right.
have to answer you.
I know that
So
doubt was sinking in, like doubt about you're crazy, like these messages aren't real. And so
uh,
that is what one of my
yeah,
clients
yeah.
was saying, like, and I was like, I think that is the ego, or that is,
It's
the logical mind. I call it Mr. Ninja, trying to
there you
sabotage
go.
what's good because, like, the sneak in and plant those seeds of doubt is
Oh, yeah, is
go
that
with
what you
your heart.
said?
Mhm.
What did you say, ninja? It's
Mr.
funny.
Ninja, Mr. Ninja
Mr.
often will pop into our sessions, and I can always tell. It'd be like, well, I don't know if this is real. Like, no, we're not,
Yeah,
analyzing that. It's the analyzer. Likes to try to
that's
analyze and quantify and make sense of things, and it's like a saboteur. So
it is. Yeah, I love how you said Mr. Yeah, it's tricky, it's sneaky,
yeah.
that's the trickster, right? It's the ego, really. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's the doubt. And that question, is this real? So I used to think, like, when I first started channeling and the light language came through and then the English came through and I was speaking, and so something would speak through me and channel through me, but at the same time, my ego would be present. I'd be like, is this real? So it would still be happening to me and I would still doubt. So if you have that thought, right? Here's a good question. What is real?
Yeah.
Like, ask that question, because people say, is it just my imagination? And I'm like, well, what is the imagination really? what's the difference between imagination and reality? Your imagination is creating reality. Even Einstein has quotes about the imagination being the gateway to
It
all
is.
wisdom and
Mm.
yeah.
The imagination is actually, the gateway to the quantum. That's how we get there. Because when your imagination is flowing, you have this sense of freedom, and you're not
Mhm.
bound by the conscious mind.
Yeah.
So really embrace imagination. And yeah,
That's why we were given an imagination.
yeah.
There's a purpose, right? It's your tool for manifestation.
Mhm.
So just those questions, like be wary of those ego questions,
Yeah.
right? Is it real? How do I know? How, when, should, like all those things, like let them go because you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be in that loop. And also like ask yourself, like, does this feel good to be in this loop? No. Okay. If it doesn't feel good, that means I'm not in alignment. Because when I'm in alignment, it feels good. And leave it at that. It can be as simple as that. And don't let it complicate things for you. But you're right. When it's first happening, it can be a
Mhm.
little confusing. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? But I do think like for me, like I think that's why I awakened maybe 11 years ago. So I could help people now. So I do have some experience, like, oh, like I went through that. And if you are going through it, there's somebody who already went through it. So you can find that and just ask for spirit. Show me the person who can give me, whether it's in a YouTube video or it's in a podcast or it's, there's someone there to guide you through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you
absolutely. Yeah.
so much for sharing your beautiful wisdom. I think the
Mhm.
listeners are really going to get a lot of value from this conversation, and I plan on sharing this episode too with some of my clients. I think
Yeah.
that they'll
Awesome.
really appreciate your guidance and wisdom on that. If listeners want to find you online, where can they go to find you?
Sure. So I'm very active on Instagram and YouTube.
Mm.
So Sarah Asher Rose, and on YouTube, Asher Rose Healing. I have a website, www.sarah-asher Rose. Everything is Asher Rose. That's my spiritual name. Um, and yeah, you can connect to me. I make content about 3 times a week on YouTube. I'm almost daily or every other day on Instagram. And I do lives from now and again. If you want to download a copy of my free guide, 10 Ways to Remember Your Light Language, you can do that. That's on my website. You'll get a nice little guide, and then you'll be on my email list. And you'll always get notified. I send content. I think about 3 times a week. I let you know when I make videos, just to keep you in the loop and keep you connected and give you reminders. And from time to time, I do workshops. Um, and contemplating doing a membership. I don't know. Well, I don't know what'll happen, but you can certainly find me on YouTube and Instagram if you want to see and hear more of me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I'll make sure to include all of those links in the show notes, and I'll include your free guide in the show notes as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I really enjoyed our
Thank
conversation.
you. Me too. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.